He's kind of in your face and tells it like it is, and that's what we need. That's what we need. We're at a point that, you gotta just put it out there. So thank you, Doug, for coming all the way from Montana.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here to tell us where the bathrooms are. It's the most important thing today. Okay, all right. Welcome. How many people have ever been to Montana? Way out west. It is actually in the United States. It's not part of Canada. It's our own thing. I live right between Yellowstone and Glacier National Park, so come out and visit anytime. I have a big house with lots of girls that live there. I'm the father of 5 daughters, ages 3 through 11, and I finally just built a garage. So pray for me, because that's where I live, is in the garage. We had a home of 1,500 square feet with 1 bathroom, and we just moved last summer. I know some of the moms are like, sweet baby Lord, how did you make that happen? So we made it happen. We made it work. Do me a favor. Cover your eyes. I promise I won't do anything weird, except for the bishop, who might get a wet willy, but that'd be weird. Cover your eyes, and I want you to take your right hand, and with the authority of Lewis and Clark, I want you to point due north. Due north. Some of you are pointing at the ceiling, which is really entertaining to me. Due north, like you are going to lead Sacagawea to the north. Okay? Now wait, now. Keep pointing, and open your eyes. I know. No, keep pointing. Don't stop, because I'm going to make fun of you. Hang on. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so it's right there. This is it. This is due north. According to my compass, it's a Montana compass, so it must be true. Okay? Due north. Okay, you can put your arms down. You did good. How many people pointed behind me? Yeah. How many of you pointed to the ceiling? Admit it. How many people knew right away? It wasn't even an issue. Okay, that's good. How many people sincerely were kind of like, oh, dang it, I need to think about that for just a second. I'm not sure. I mean, I would have been complete. I don't have my mountains here, so I'm toast. I live on the eastern front of the Rockies, so when I want to know which way is west, I look at the mountains, right? I just kind of go, oh, you're there, therefore I need to go there. Okay, so I have this natural compass. I'm totally lost here. When I was driving from the airport to the hotel yesterday, I was cradling my GPS like it was an infant child. I mean, I was like, south? Okay, I believe you. I had no idea, okay? Here's the thing about youth ministry, and here's what we're going to do today. We're going to break this up into 3 different parts. There's some incredible opportunities to just be in dialogue today, to laugh, to share, and to just invest ourselves in the process. But here's where we will fail traumatically, okay? We need to be going in the same direction. So we need to, as soon as we can, we need to get into a place where we're actually all tending towards one direction. Does that make sense? And please, I know I'm a parent, I'm a youth minister, I was a multi-parish youth minister, we'll talk more about that later, and now I'm a Diocesan Director of Faith Formation. I was a coordinator of the Office of Youth and Young Adult Ministry, so I've kind of done a lot of different things in the world of youth ministry, and I can tell you right now, the most debilitating thing that will happen is for us to not be going in the same direction. So here's the reality, friends. Your bishop is here all day. And guess what, church, modern church, our bishops set the agenda. Does that make sense? I'm not going to have an ecclesial fist fight with you. This is reality, okay? So when our bishop says, hey, friends, I would like you to do da-da-da-da-da, that's the direction. It's not up for debate. This is the direction we're going. And we're going towards a direction that serves adolescents. And we're also, it sounds to me like we're going towards a direction that is empowering to young people and investigative of multi-parish opportunities. Well, guess what? That's your day. That's the day. Hey, get on board, friends, because otherwise you're going to get left behind. Today is not about breaking down catechetical programs that you're already doing and you trying to convince me that they're the best in the world. That's not what today is. Today is about visioning. And looking at ourselves and what we do, moms and dads, youth ministers, school campus ministries, DREs, catechists, all of us together, and saying, how can I do it better? So everybody just kind of take your hat off and set it down and face north and say, okay, let's all get better. That's what we're going to do today. Okay, I promise. If you're still pointing behind me at the end of the day, that is my fault, okay? It's my fault, and I will sick the bishop on you, okay? And he will noogie you, right? And be like, wake up, we're going that way, okay? That's the direction, okay? This is also kind of fun because it's an adult gathering, and I do a lot of speaking to young people, so you are so lucky I didn't make you do an icebreaker, you have no idea. So this is a good opportunity to ask questions and to be in dialogue. You know when the best time to do that is? Lunch, right? Break time, when we can really engage each other, and also our opportunities to do Q&A. The less involved you are, the more lost you'll be, and what I mean by that is, the more lost you'll be. Okay? It means you'll literally be lost. You'll get lost. You'll be kind of walking to the east, walking to the west. You won't know what's going on. Okay? So track with that. I'm going to go not super fast, but I am definitely going to try to make sure that we touch base on all the things that we need to. I want to make sure that we cover our bases. I don't want us to get stuck behind. How many people have ever seen this document? I know it's a little further away for you in the back. Okay, how many people have never seen that document ever in your life? Okay, listen, homework, and I'm being totally serious right now. You need to know what this is. This is renewing the vision. Okay, in 1977, the vision was constructed by our bishops, and in 1997, it was reconstructed to be called the Renewing the Vision document. It is not a curriculum on how to do youth ministry. That's not what it is. It is exactly what it says it is. It's a framework for how to do youth ministry. And inside of it, there are 3 goals, and there are 8 components. This is not a systematic program for how to work with young people. Oh, it's Monday, so we're going to do catechesis on Monday, and then Tuesday we'll do community life. That is not what this is, okay? But these major components, right, they need to absolutely drench our work with young people. And I want you to notice something, and this is going to anger some people. Catechesis specifically is a component. It's a component. It's not the component. It's a component. Where does this document come from? The United States Catholic Conference of Bishops. Is catechesis important? Duh. Okay? Duh. In fact, if you don't think it is, you're facing south and you're crawling that way. Okay? It's very important. But it's one piece in a framework for approaching adolescence. Now also be careful here. Worship, prayer and worship, be careful here. That does not mean liturgy, explicitly, okay? Oh, it's just the Mass. That's just one part of what we... No. Liturgy is liturgy. I'm not touching liturgy. Liturgy is liturgy, okay? Mass is Mass. We'll talk more about that later. That doesn't say, oh, and Mass is important too. You should try to get kids there sometimes. That's not what that says, okay? Prayer and worship is prayer and worship. It's prayer and worship. It's engaging adolescents in healthy prayer and worship experiences. That's not specifically liturgical experiences, although liturgical experiences are prayerful and worship, okay? But that's not specifically that, so be careful. The bishops didn't say, oh yeah, Mass is kind of sort of important. No, that's not what they said, okay? But I want you to track with that language because I'm going to depart from it really quickly. Because this is really big. This is really big. Major youth ministry certificates, Dayton Center for Ministry Development, this is their curriculum. They want you to know the components and look at what you're doing for young people and really assess it and say, well, you know, how are we doing? Where are we really strong? We're really strong catechetically. Good, that's good. That's not a bad thing. But maybe we're not engaging young people in justice and service and we could do some work there. That's good. That's a good analysis of what you're doing. We're not going to do that today. What we're going to say is we need to do this better in a way that's functional and simple. And I want to hear your story as much as you hear my story. And I think everyone in the room can agree that functional and simple is a good thing. Okay? Functional and simple is a good thing. I'm not selling programming. I'm not. And in fact, I am like a publisher's worst nightmare. Okay? I hate to do this to you, but I'm just huge news flash. Youth ministry is not Life Teen. It's not CMD. It's not Zondervan. It's not. Those are publishers. Youth ministry is discipleship. Okay, period. Bible and a catechism, guys. Seriously. Bible and a catechism. Now, do publishers help us do youth ministry? You bet. Yes. Yes, they do. But here's what's happened, and the bishop alluded to this. A lot of what we call youth ministry in our dioceses, in our faith communities, in our multi-parishes, and in our Catholic schools, a lot of it, we are slaves to publishers. And I'm actually using the word slavery there, and I want you to have an image in your mind of being handcuffed to it. We are slaves to it. The thing said on Tuesday to do the thing. And we're going to do that thing. And meanwhile, you have like 5 kids over here going, nee, 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 nee. There's no discipleship happening there, okay? There's no discipleship happening there because we can become slave to publisher X. So are you basing your understanding of a publication on the number one priority, which is the mission, which is the teen that's sitting there picking their nose? They're the mission. Okay? The book isn't the mission. The mission is the person, right? The Ethiopian eunuch was the mission for Philip. Okay? He was the mission. Would he have preferred to not baptize him with his spit? Yes, he would have preferred to not do that. But that was the mission, because that's how it was presented to him. Okay? Would he prefer an upper room? Yes. Yes, all of them would have preferred an upper room and not having their face catch on fire and have to go out to the street. They would have preferred that, okay? But the reality is that when we slave ourselves to a textual relationship with teens, we forget about the teens. All right, we'll talk more about that, I promise. You guys know what those are? What are they? Google glasses. I love how even some of our older folks in the room are like, those are Google glasses, I know what those are. What do they do? And everybody that just said Google glasses, they're like, I don't know. But they're popular. Okay, what do they do? They're also really expensive. What do they? That's part of it. That's a piece of it, right. Anybody know anybody have Google glasses? That would have been awesome. It is. You're spot on. It's like having a computer attached to your face. And I'm not making fun. That's actually literally what it is. Okay. So I walk in here with Google glasses, and I click the little button. It's basically like the equivalent of like Siri technology, and I can say like, hey, which way is north? Okay, and Google, in its mega weirdness, okay, just goes bing, and then there's an arrow, and I'm like, no way, I'm facing north. Or I say, where can I go by renewing the vision? And usccb.org pops up, and I can see it, and I could actually tell it to make the purchase for me by using PayPal. It's a computer on your face. Okay, this is real. Right? Everybody's like, yes, that is real. This isn't weird. It is weird, but it is real, okay? So that level of information access is real. Is everybody tracking with that? That is happening, okay? We think this is still a new idea. That's kind of funny, okay? That's kind of funny, okay? This is real. And here's why I'm dwelling on it for a minute. This is the new street corner. Where did youth ministry start? Chicago, on the street corners, where priests and bishops started to recognize kids, deviant kids, not coming to church anymore in their black leather and their white t-shirts, and said, we need to engage young people. What are the roots of youth ministry? Do you know this? Boxing clubs. Boxing clubs, right? Baltimore, Chicago, boxing clubs. CYO, why is it associated with sports? Because that's where it originated. Get kids playing sports. Have a parish boxing club. So instead of fighting on the street, you will fight in front of us. That is kind of hilarious and yet very real, okay? And CYO exploded, didn't it? It exploded on the scene. And it was more than sports, it was dances. CYO dances and CYO clubs that had officers, right? Have you heard that before? CYO officers, the president of the CYO club for parish X. That's the origins of youth ministry. And then the language started to change, didn't it? It was like, well, youth ministry is not a club, it's a ministry, okay? And we started to depart from these monstrous athletic organizations into these more personal, formative experiences. But all the while, right, many of our parishes had what attached to them? Schools. Schools. So the origins of youth ministry wasn't to do direct service catechesis, it was to just gather well. It was to gather well, right? Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but 70% of our schools are gone. They're gone. So in the 70s, youth ministry saw a major facelift. You have this thing called CYO, and then you have this need to directly service young people, right? And parishes are like, I don't know. Okay? So what developed out of the 70s? Search. Search developed out of the 70s. This is a huge thing. The 3-day, 2-night retreat. How many people have ever heard of Search? Tech. Awakening. How many people have heard of Curcio, which came out of Texas? Okay? These intense, intentional, overnight gatherings. Okay? Because it became prevalent to the parish communities that we needed to relationally connect with young people and then welcome them into community in a specific way to their adolescence. Okay? Those are all good things. The street corner changed, didn't it? It changed. It was different. Where young people were at is different. Is where young people are at in 2014 the same as 2005? No, it's not. So we all agree with that. Good. We're all facing north. That's good. So where are they? Where are young people? How are you gathering them? And how are you inviting them? And what on earth are you inviting them to? That's what today is about. Right? Big picture stuff. 30,000 square foot. Right? Because if we don't answer those questions, our programs, what are you doing? Honestly, what are you doing? Okay? That's what your bishop's agenda is. He wants the 30,000 foot view. And he wants us to say, maybe there's a better way we can do this. Okay? And I think that there is. I think there always is. Okay? Every Catholic is a youth minister. Isn't that great? It's based on relationships, though, not personalities. It just is. It just is. When the pastor gets moved, the ministry failed. When the youth minister quit, the youth ministry stopped. Well, we need to do better than that. When Paul died, the church didn't die, as far as I know, although I'm pretty sure it took a hit. Okay? It didn't die, right? So, lay ecclesial ministers and priests, women religious, and our deacons and all, we have to ask ourselves when we're serving young people, are we serving them for us? Are we serving them for long-term discipleship? And here's the thing about that. Here's what frames that conversation really well is, what kind of language am I using with a young person? Is it academic language or is it relational language? All right, all you crazy adults that have paper and pens in front of you, do me a favor right now. I want you to write down 5 people's names, but just a minute, let me frame it. 5 people's names. 5 people that you have a relationship with. Okay, Christ can be included in that, that's up to you. Okay, but here's the framework. At least one of them needs to be rock solid. Like husband, wife, right, Christ, whatever. Daughter, whatever, aunt, sister, whatever. Rock solid relationship that you're just like totally solid. No big deal. One of them needs to be like weird. Like, I don't really know where I stand with this person. Like I walk out of a room and I'm feeling weird. You know what I mean? Like you're just like awkward relationship, awkward turtle all the time. You're like, I don't really know. Okay. And one of the 5 needs to be like pretty difficult. Like it's like they hurt you. Like you don't know where you stand and like it takes energy. Like it's really hard. That could be your husband or your wife or your sister. That could be Christ. I don't know. All right. So 5 names, 3 different kinds of relationships to the best of your abilities. Go. Okay? As best you can. How many people struggle coming up with 5 names? Just as you keep writing. How many? This is hard. It's hard. I think it is hard sometimes. Okay. How many of you have ever heard this term? Youth culture. Youth culture. Okay, that's a crazy loaded weird term. That's like saying in the church, and this will be funny to some people, the spirit of Vatican II. Everyone's like, oh, totally, the spirit of Vatican II. Absolutely. Everybody's like, I have no idea what that is. Sounds like something out of a Scooby-Doo cartoon. Oh, Spirit of Vatican II. No one knows what that is. There's books called Spirit of Vatican II. Bishops are like, I don't know what that is. Honestly. We could talk about that if you'd like, but really? Come on, really? We don't know, okay? Youth culture is the same idea. It's the same idea, okay? In the Diocese of Wilmington, you're going to love this. In the Diocese of Wilmington, my good friend Patrick Donovan, he's the director there. He is a loud, oh my gosh, he's a loud guy, okay? He organized an all-diocesan conference. It was pretty special, where he had like hundreds of youth and hundreds of folks that work with youth. like today. I mean, like hundreds though. So it was like a 600-700 person thing. He had this huge ballroom, and he had the youth in one ballroom and all the adults in one, and he had leaders for both groups. And the point of the day was to essentially establish a mission statement on behalf of the bishop to do youth ministry in the diocese. That's cool. That's a cool idea, right? So it was like a congress is what it was. So the young people were commissioned to basically write a mission statement or a declaration of what they think the church has to say to them. Does that make sense? Okay. Adults, same thing. It was like, what do we have to say to young people? All right. So the adults, at the end of the day, they came up with, you belong. Okay, that's kind of cool. They got stuck on you are loved for like half the day, okay? But they ended up with you belong. That's a cool statement, okay? You are welcome here. This is a place for you, okay? You are loved, and we want you to know that you're here. Okay, the young people, check this out. This is bizarre. They saw that as a threat. Don't tell me you want me in your club. What do you think the young people had to say to the church? You don't know me. You don't know me. I want you to sit with that for just a second. You belong. You belong here. You don't know me. You don't know me. Are you friends with everybody you've ever met ever? No. Are there people in your life that you're just like, as an adult, I choose not to hang out with you ever, right? Okay. And even the priests are like, absolutely. 4 rows back, 3 seats in. No. I know. It's right. As an adult, right? Let's have an adult moment, right? Like your wife has a friend and they have a husband and they come over for dinner and you have nothing in common. And you're just like, you're one of those people that I would choose to avoid. I'm going to go to the garage. You know, like it's just weird. Like the wives are like totally like, this is awesome. And the husbands are like, hey, do you hunt? They're like, no, in fact, I don't like to violate animals. And you're like, oh no, you know, okay. Flip side's true, right? Flip side's true as well. Husband brings home his bro, right? And the bro's wife is like out there and the wife is like, you need to not be in my home or around my children, okay? It's real, isn't it? Okay, as adults, we look at relationships and we just kind of go, okay. Why would we think that it's any different for young people? It's not. I mean, like, in fact, it's actually sort of crazy to think that it is. Like, you don't think that when you walk in a room, when bishop walks in a room, when father walks in a room, when DRE blah, blah, blah walks in a room, that they aren't automatically going, no, I want to hang out with you. Or, okay, we'll see how this goes. You think it's any different? You're crazy. And then, adults, be really honest with yourselves. Once you've made the judgment, which, right, we all know on average takes less than 7 seconds, right? And then sometimes that gets repaired, but sometimes it gets destroyed, okay? How hard is it to repair it? Right? This is like social science 101. This isn't rocket science, okay? It's hard. Why would it be any different? Why would it be any different with young people? Because they have to be there. Because they have to be in class. They have to be there when I teach theology. Therefore, you will like the Gospel of Mark. Okay? Why would it be any different? It's all a fragile landscape, isn't it? This thing we call relationships. It's the same thing. Please, it's not, this isn't, I'm not, hopefully not teaching you anything you don't already know, okay? Like, it's the same thing. That's why this term is so weird. Because what we're really dealing with is the adolescent mindset. And honestly, it hasn't changed a ton. Here's the difference. What's the biggest headline that young people know about the church? What's the next one? And the bishops are talking about this a lot. The financial crisis. Post-abuse crisis, financial crisis. We didn't manage our money very well for the last 30 years, and we paid out to the courts to do this thing. Oh no, we have a problem. My diocese is in chapter 11 right now. Okay? My region had 4 chapter 11 dioceses. Think about that. Hoofda. Okay? So if all that you know about my house, I have a little house, it's kind of nice, it's a little view of the mountains. If all that you know about it, teenagers, is that like it's kind of sketchy, and you're not really sure that people actually like it, but that you're supposed to be invited into it. It's like, think Halloween, right? You're like looking at a house and you're like, that is creepy, okay? And I'm standing on the porch going, you should come into my house. This is going to be great for you. Why would we think for a minute that that's any different for an adolescent, ever? Why are we thinking that way? Why do we think like, I just don't understand why they don't want to come to our stuff? Because you're creepy, okay? You're creepy. And you think that that doesn't affect, listen, you think that that doesn't affect adolescent culture? We know that violence is a major issue for young people, specifically in middle school. Look at these numbers. They're crazy. Half of 7th and 8th graders encounter a violent experience within schools. And you think Catholic schools are any different? Get over yourself. The numbers are exactly the same. Exactly the same. Okay? And we know that media is a huge deal, right? They're targeted specifically, right? Do you know what the median age of the marketing target for MTV is? Do you know what it is? 12-year-old girls. Do you know what the largest population of people who actually view MTV is? Get ready. 34-year-old men. That's creepy, okay? That's creepy. You think people aren't targeted? This generation of young people, Bishop alluded to this, are targeted because this group of young people have an expense account that would make you want to cry, okay? The average, of course. The average. So we know, businessman Doug knows that there's a market that is young adolescents, and that mediums exist in the hands of that market, and that I can target it to draw them into buying the thing I sell, okay? So information, we talked about letters, we're making fun of letters before, but information is super accessible. It's not just the banter I had at school, right? It's the tweet or the post or the direct note or the message that I got today about the thing. And the number one thing that adolescents have seen about the church is abuse and crisis. That's a different culture to do adolescent ministry in, isn't it? Yeah, so don't beat yourself up, okay? It's hard. It's not complicated, but it's hard. Do you see the difference? It's not complicated, but it's hard. I love to throw parties. I love to invite people to my house. I like that. So I like things like hospitality, right? Do some of you like to host? This is like a thing for my wife and I. We have a Labor Day party. It's like 200 people. It's ridiculous. It's fantastic. So I would be hurt if my home was inhospitable to people that I'm in relationship with. Does that make sense? Is that language? Are you, okay, that's our church right now. In a lot of ways with adolescence is a sense of inhospitableness, which isn't even a word, okay? That's the reality. Guess what? The number one agenda for the new evangelization is. The number one agenda in parishes. Well, guess what it is? Quick. Starts with an H. Ends with hospitality. Okay? Think about it. Isn't that true? It's the number one practical approach to the new evangelization is be more hospitable. Think about everything you know about that word and then go, oh, that's probably a good idea. Okay? I walked into the building. No one knew who I was. I've been a parishioner for 2 years. I've never been invited to anything. Why on earth do I want to be in your home? And you think it's different for young people? You think it's any different? Guys, we're all adults-ish, right? Okay? We like to be liked. We like to be welcomed. So how's that hospitality going at your parish community? How's it going? It's tough, isn't it? It's tough. It's the same thing with adolescent care. So I gather young people on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and they all sit in chairs that are like 1/3 the size of them because we're sharing the daycare room. How does that make young people feel? I'm being totally serious. Like, how does that make them feel? That's inhospitable. I welcomed you to my meeting, right? You came and sat, and we all had to sit on pillows in the youth room. It's an adult parish council, right? And the pastor's sitting on the floor, and he has the parish council sitting on pillows. How do they feel? They feel like they got treated like kids. It's inhospitable. Okay? I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but How many people have seen these books? Soul Searching, Souls in Transition, Lost in Transition. This is the brand new one, Young Catholic America. Okay, listen. This is the National Study of Youth and Religion. Christian Smith, Chair of Sociology at Notre Dame, used to be at University of North Carolina. You need to read these. Okay, so write this down. The NSYR, the National Study of Youth and Religion. And we could do a whole day on this. We're not gonna. This is an exhaustive study between 2002 and 2010 that tracked the religious trends of young people. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. So it was all these different denominations, okay, all these different faiths, and we get them all together, and we're going to do interviews, 30-minute interviews with young people, over 10,000 interviews. We're going to sit down, we're going to ask them questions about faith and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's two things that they found that are really, really important. One, they found within the first half a year that they could not separate the spiritual trends of young people from their parents. So the interviews became the youth and mom and dad because they couldn't separate them. They found a lot of things, but that was a huge one. So we learned a lot about mom and dad and youth. Kids don't fall that far from the tree. They just don't. If a kid is raised Presbyterian, chances are he's not going to be like, and I've decided to be Buddhist. That is rare. That is super rare. They're always going to associate Presbyterian with God, with faith life. Catholic kid, well, I was raised Catholic. So they're going to associate that with religion. That's the trend, okay? And the religiosity is the word they use, which really basically just means like the tendencies towards religion, okay? Echoed mom and dad almost to a T. Mom and dad never go to Mass, but they are ticked that their kid is not going to Mass. And then they are livid when father won't confirm them. Everybody's like, oh, been there, okay? Okay, that's what the study proved it. We got a D. Catholics got a D in the NSYR. How are we serving families? And here was the big thing that we learned about Catholic kids. Vocabulary. Young people in the Catholic Church a lot of times will say, I'm Catholic. But they won't have the language necessarily to explain that in any way, shape, or form. Now, that being said, there were some challenges to the study which are legit. If you asked a Catholic kid, 16, what's your worship experience like? What are they going to talk about? Mass. Right? Most of us would too, actually. That would be like our thing. Well, that's not true for non-denominational evangelical, is it? It's not the same. So that word actually means two things. That's not criticism, it just means two things, okay? So there really was another study done to parallel this for liturgical Christians, right? ELCA Lutheran, Missouri Synod Lutheran, Episcopalian brothers and sisters, that kind of thing, that associated worship specifically with liturgy, okay? And the grade was the same. The grade was the same in terms of what that experience means for their religiosity. Here's why I'm getting at that, is because the reality from all this language is that youth just aren't that different than the spiritual habits of their parents, period, and that their vocabulary, their actually understanding of what they believe in is really limited. And I have some theories on that. Socrates said, our youth now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt of authority, disrespect for older people. Children nowadays are tyrants. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble their food, and tyrannize their teachers. Some things just don't change. Some of us get really hung up on the behavioral aspect of adolescence. Get over it. You were a kid once. You need to get over it. There's inexperience and a lack of point of reference sometimes. Does that mean that young people shouldn't be taught manners? Of course they should be taught manners. I understand that. We need to not get stuck here. Well, youth these days just don't ask questions, and they're always staring out the window. I'm like, welcome to 1955, okay? That's not different. Bishop wasn't alluding to that, okay? The difference comes from what we think our young people are saying they need/want. That's the difference. But here's the reality in that conversation as well. And the National Study of Youth and Religion, which we just talked about, affirm that wholeheartedly. And this is not rocket science, right? It's just not. It's not super complicated. But it's still kind of challenging. So confirmation class, youth ministry, I don't want to talk too much about sacramental prep, although we can if you want to, but youth ministry with young people. Do young people feel loved? Really? loved? Are they accepted just for who they are? Do they feel accepted that way? Like, this is a place for you, and I'm going to make sure that I manage this place where you can be served and nourished. Okay? Do you listen more than you speak? Youth ministers are really guilty of this. Parish youth ministers especially. Do you listen more than you speak? Do you listen to the heart? Okay? And I love this line. Do you just constantly remind young people that where they're at and what they're engaging is normal? That sounds kind of condescending, but it's very real. It's very real. Suicidal tendencies among teens, I'm not saying that that's normal, but statistically, it's not uncommon. So when the 15-year-old girl is bawling and mascara is streaming down her face and she's saying to youth minister X, pastor X, sister so-and-so, I've been thinking about ending myself. The best thing you can do, of course, is respond immediately, but to say, hey, listen, a lot of young people have those thoughts. Let's talk about them right now. Let's be very active right now. Rather than, whoa, I need to call the cops, you know. Hang on, okay. A lot of young people have those thoughts, but let's make sure that we talk about why you're having those thoughts. Are we being relational? Do you know what this means? It's a gift of the Holy Spirit. Do you really know what it means? I understand young people. That's a loaded statement. Right? Some of you are like, I clearly understand all adolescents and their weirdness. No, careful. This is actually a word of solidarity as well as knowledge. So when you say you understand someone, you're not just saying, I totally get them, they dress weird, and that's who they are. That's not proper use of the word. The word is actually stand under. Right? I understand you. I'm going to stand for you. I'm going to stand for you. I'm in solidarity with you. I get you. I'm with you. I'm going to advocate for you. Right? That's all spiritual language. I'm going to stand with you. I understand the young people in my faith community. I'm going to advocate for them on the parish council. I'm going to advocate for them with the bishop. I'm going to advocate for them with Pastor A. Because I understand him. I spend a lot of time with him. I know a lot about him, and I really value that. Do you see the difference? Okay? And are you having a good time? How many people have been to a dinner party at an adult's house where they seriously wanted to leave within 10 minutes? Booyah. Okay? You think it's different? It's not different, right? We love to draw it's the youth culture and they're like aliens. That's not really that true. Adults, we are the same. We're so similar. When we enter into someone's home and it really smells like bananas and there's like 50 cats and they're offering you tea in a dirty cup, you're just like, I had something come up and I gotta go. So, that's totally what we do, isn't it? We do. It takes some serious discipline for an adult to just be like, I love cats and smelly bananas. I would love some more tea. That's not real. That's not real. Pastors, especially, how many dinner parties do you get invited to? And sometimes you're just like, I hate tilapia. And I'm going to eat it right now because that's what you made, right? And you're just like, tilapia, okay? It's the same thing. It's not any different. It's not fun. You didn't associate anything fun with that. And this is, you know what? There's a bad rap given to DREs and catechists about this. DREs and catechists are like, it should never be fun, sit down and shut up. That's not true. It's not true. It's just not. That's a lie, right? And you teachers, you Catholic school teachers, you classroom teachers, you know if it's not joyful in some way, if it's not engaging in some way, you're toast. You're toast. And you know that. You already know that. Why would we think it's any different for adolescents? Why do we think that? Why do we think that the data manages the mood? That is not true. You don't enjoy it. Why would you think they would enjoy that? Now, are there moments where it's a serious conversation? Yes. Yes. That's just like adult life, right? Where we have relationships and we're like, hey, I really just need to talk to you. It's the same thing, okay? There are moments when you need to engage a serious topic, and sometimes behaviorally that's hard to manage. But there needs to be joy as well, right? There needs to be joy as well. This shouldn't freak you out, especially in sacramental preparation or things that have a little bit more of a disciplined curriculum. There still needs to be joy. And sometimes that's not necessarily your definition of joy. It's the definition that you've gained from the young people that you work with. Well, what do they love? Well, they love it when I take the data and I convert it into a PowerPoint game show. So we're going to do that for like 10 minutes at confirmation to make sure that it's engaging and somewhat joyful for them. And we're going to transition into a walk into the faith community, and we're going to do blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But there's ways to do that well that we need to just do better. Okay, we just simply need to do better. Okay, this isn't new. God bless the National Study of Youth and Religion. It's not new. Okay? We have not done a good job teaching the vocabulary of faith. And I will make a very bold statement right now. An older generation of Catholics that were raised in a catechetical formation which insisted that they memorize answers to questions had the vocabulary, but here it comes, but maybe didn't understand the meaning. Because I will say this right now, and I will own it, and we can spar later, and I box, so bring it on, okay? Young people today, I would argue, and by young people I mean like that 14 to 18-year-olds that are engaged in faith formation today, have a keener understanding of the real presence of the Eucharist than many generations that have preceded them. We can argue if you want to. Some of you are nodding your head. Some of you are like, you do not know my child. Okay, I understand, but listen. You see what I'm saying? There's a scale here, so let's just be careful. When we start talking about vocabulary, it's not just I have the answer, it's I know what the answer means. Who is God? God is blah, blah, blah. Who is Jesus? Jesus is, it's not a bad thing. I never said that was a bad thing. What I'm saying is depth and meaning also has value, so let's find the balance between the two things, okay? We'll get more into that later. How many people have ever seen this book? So good. Listen, if you're a reader, don't miss out on this. The God-Bearing Life, so good. So good. Look at this line. Adolescents are looking for a soul-shaking, heart-waking, world-changing God to fall in love with, and if they do not find that God in the Christian church, they will most certainly settle for lesser gods elsewhere, and so will we. Isn't that a great line? Whose house are you inviting them into? What's that house like? What does it profess? Here's a challenge for you adults. So if I came over to your house, would I know that you're Catholic? Yep. Would I? From the convent. She's like, well, if you didn't, that'd be weird. Look at what I'm wearing. Okay. That's awesome. Can just see the LDS missionary, and I'll see you later. Okay. This is such a good line, though, isn't it? And, lowercase. I love that line. Right? What owns you, right? What totally dominates your time? What brings awe to you, like reverence and awe? What are you reverencing? A lesser God? Ugh. Spooky but real, right? Okay? And so do we. And look at this line. What a great framework for youth ministry. A soul-shaking, heart-waking, world-changing God. Bishop was alluding to that. What are we witnessing to, right? New evangelization? It's not just do the old stuff better, right? It's a new ardor. That's the word. A new ardor, which means a renewed energy, like a renewed love affair, like a passionate love affair renewed. Like, just went to a marriage retreat with my wife, get out of the way, babies are coming, okay? Like that level, okay? All right, I'm only half joking, okay? Some of you are like, I know that couple, okay? It's a renewed ardor. The t-shirt of the new evangelization is, God works here. Think about that. So you see me and you go, the Lord's alive in that person. That's the level that we're talking about. It's not just, we should just say the same thing in a different way. It's not just invite fallen Catholics back. That's not just the new evangel. It's a new ardor, a new passionate love affair with your lover, and everyone knows you're in love, loving, loveliness. That level. Okay? That's what they're talking about. That's Benedict. That's Paul VI, actually, where the language is actually rooted. Okay? That was JP2's thing, right? How did he embody the love affair? He clung to the corpus, right? How many pictures of JP2 have you seen just clinging to the cross because you knew that was his lover? Just dial that in for a minute. Just think about that for a second. It gives me chills. That's real. Do you know how much in love I am with my God, with my wife, with my kids, when you see me together? Do you know? Do you look at it and go, dude, he really likes his kids. His wife is really, he loves his Lord. Do you? I don't know. I know I bomb that all the time. Think about the most holy people you know. Most of the time it's because you know how much they love their lover. Okay? That's the language. It's the same language. So lesser gods is a travesty. Okay? Here's some more language for you. This is tough on kids. And this might throw a hitch in your get along here for a minute. This is tough on kids. And let me just tell you why. This is part of that new ardor. Young people, statistically, and this isn't actually a new statistic, it's older and it's been renewed, the idea of group is alienating. Young people love community. You want to know a huge, amazing statistical difference between Generation X, that's my generation, famous for teenage pregnancy and moving in with our parents, woohoo, okay? And then the modern generation, which is now changing again, but we'll call millennials, but now they're kind of changing into something else. My kids aren't really millennials. My oldest kind of, sort of, but then there's kind of a new generation. Generation Xers really gathered based on their strengths. Oh, you're tough, I'm tough, let's be tough together. You're an athlete, I'm an athlete, let's be athletes together. That was like a Gen X thing. We would be very timid about letting ourselves look weak. We were like, yep, you, me, got it. Yep, I'm tall, you're tall, let's be tall. Okay, so that was our thing. The millennial generation now, kind of like a 21, 22-year-old would be like the oldest, and the youngest would be like in their teens. Gather on their brokenness. Young people are way more inclined today to gather around common brokenness. In fact, the mentality of external toughness is a turnoff. It's a turnoff. Look at me, I'm perfect, I'm extremely handsome, come be around me. That's a turnoff. Look at the films about teenagers today. It's about the geek. It's about the teen who's pregnant. And they become the cool kid. Coolness is found in cheekiness. That's not the jock. The jock is always the bad person. Do you see the difference? Now here's what's amazing about that. When we get a group together and we feel like youth group are for the really churched kids, who do you think is going to want to be a part of that? If spiritually I'm really wrestling, we had a great conversation at dinner about this. It's like what the physical presence of adoration has done to young people in the last generation. But like just saying, if the mentality, I'm not saying your youth group is that, but if the mentality is that's for the holy kids, I'm out. Because I don't consider myself holy, I consider myself a sinner, and I'm really struggling with it, and that's the group that I want to be a part of. And that mentality, it's not your fault, you inherited it, okay, doesn't speak to that well. Do you see the difference? So when your youth ministries become Bible studies and retreat experiences and gender ministries, which I know you do in your diocese too, you do some cool men's and women's pieces, and social justice and outreach, and core group, which means you're kind of taking them to another level. It's like, hey, let's all get UCATs and really dig into that. UCAT chat, that's a great way to do youth ministry, okay? Or prayer teams that really intentionally are always praying for other people. These become way more popular than this. Oh, and I know this hurts. It's hard. It's hard. This is more work. And there's more fruit. Because the soil over here, you are rototilling it. And this one, you're kind of scuffing it with your feet. Okay? One of the most exciting examples of this I've ever seen was I was at a parish in Kalispell, Montana, and the youth ministry was really dying. It was tough. And we had a group of dads, and they refused to come to youth group. And most dads are that way. Let's just be honest with ourselves. In the modern church, it's really hard to find male volunteers. It's just really hard. Okay. But these dads all love to work on cars. Okay? All right. So cars was their thing. So I had a bunch of kids. These are Montana kids, belt buckle, boot wearing, Carhartt kids. Okay? And I said, how many of you know how to work on cars? And they're like, and like 10 of them. And these are kids that would not come to youth group, okay? They totally work on cars. And I said, well, listen, we're going to do this thing where we're going to change the oil of cars during Mass. So you're going to come to the 8 o'clock Mass, and at the 11 o'clock Mass, all these dads and these kids are going to come out. Anybody who signed up, we're going to change your oil. Got a little jack, the whole thing, the tray, the whole thing. I had it all recycled. It was brilliant. And these kids are like, I know how to change oil. I'm super good at it. All right, sweet. You're with him, you're with him, you're with him. So you come to the Risen Christ at the 11 o'clock Mass, and there's just cars jacked up. Kids got grease on their face. Kids that were the quietest kid in the room, they're walking around like, come on, step it up, Clyde. We got 2 more. Let's do this. And they're over there, and they're doing it. And they're like, they're engaged, right? And they're like, that one's my grandma's. Wipe it off, all right? They're talking, okay? And as a youth minister, you're like, they get it, right? They're into this. And the dads are filthy, and they're laughing because they're doing something they know how to do. They're comfortable. The same dad, if I had been like, hey, I was just wondering if you could witness to your relationship with our Lord Jesus Christ and his meaning in your life, they would be like, no, okay? But they're doing this, okay? That group grew to like 50 kids. Kids that weren't even Catholic. That were coming to church. And changing oil. I know. You don't think that there was authentic conversion happening in that stupid parking lot? 15 minutes of processing. Hey, what did we do today? Hey, we served my grandma. She can't afford to do that. So what does that mean? Components of justice and service and teaching. Who's that about? Christ. Cool. I get it. You think that's not good catechesis? You're blind. You're walking south and we're going north. Do you see the difference? You never would have seen those 50 kids. Ever. And you know it. So are you creative that way? Are you looking at the strengths of your community and saying youth ministries are bigger than youth group and we want to gather young people in that way? You think there aren't young people that just want to get answers? They really don't care about how many marshmallows they can shove in their mouth. They don't care. They don't care about your little youth ministry icebreaker. They just want to gather well. You don't think that when you put one of those little yellow Ignatius Loyola Press UCATs in their hand and say, come up with 10 questions, let's answer them together, that's not going to give them fruit in a way that you can't when they're over here in right field and you're talking to left? You're wrong. You're wrong. Because that's a kid that's different than a kid who comes to Wednesday night. You think young people don't desperately long to know the Word, and Catholics, we are horrible at this. Horrible. Bible study is youth ministry. And Catholic Bible studies are hilarious. Have you ever led a Catholic Bible study? Open your books to the book of James. Where do the Catholics go? Genesis. And they're like, is it alphabetical? I don't know. Are we close? Read your freaking Bible. Listen, I'll throw another thorn out there. Listen, you think that teaching young people apologetics is going to draw people to the church? You think that's equipping young people to defend the faith well? If young people are not savvy with Scripture, what traction do you really think is going to happen? Well, I know Augustine. I know Aquinas. I've got Clement of Alexandria down. I will quote you Justin Martyr. And their non-denominational Christian friend is like, I don't care. It's not in the Word. I don't care. I don't care what Scott Hahn said. I don't care. It's not in the Word. I am telling you, church, Bible study will equip young people to defend the faith and evangelize better than any program that you think you can buy. And you need it too. Every priest in this room would agree. You need it too. So do they. So do I. I need to be in the Word. You know what the best, easiest way to do this is? Lectionary. Lectionary Bible study. What's the gospel for the upcoming week? You think there's not catechesis, community life, prayer, and worship components in that just by talking about the upcoming gospel? You think that doesn't steer everything in renewing the vision? It's uncanny. And then, when you really dig into it, what have you done? Kid goes to Mass, Father so-and-so gets up there and preaches on it, and the kid's like, oh, it's good to hear that again. You think repetition's not important among adolescents? Get over yourself. You need it too. I already read that. And I heard it again, and now I have a relationship with it. Profound. Profound. That's not a new program, by the way. It's been the best-selling book for a really, really long time. Okay? Do you know what the #1 selling fictional series in the United States of America was before the Harry Potter series? Do you know what it was? Give me a guess. Anybody got anything? Think. Series. The Left Behind series. Number 1. You think that there's not a hunger for the Word to be accessible? Now, careful. I'm not saying like, so you need to go read Left Behind series. That's not what I'm saying, okay? What I'm saying is I had more kids in the late 90s and early 2000s coming to me and saying, what is this book actually saying? Than I had people ignoring youth ministry altogether. So what did we do? We studied Luke, right? We studied John, and then we studied Revelation, because why wouldn't you? Well, let's actually learn what those words mean. Oh, it's about the blood. Now I get it, okay? There's value to that. Do Bible study, man. And you know what, adults? Adult Bible study is really good too. It's really good too. You're actually expected to know it. I know. I know. Okay. How are we doing? Right. How many people have seen this? We're going to finish with this. This is out of Kenda Creasy Dean's book, God Bearing Life. And I want you to stare at that image for just a second. Just take it in. This is unacceptable. The trend is unacceptable. This is where the hipster youth minister resides with their hipster kids. And this is the parish, and pastor is in here somewhere every once in a while walking through this little corridor. This is unacceptable. It assumes a lot of things. Their needs are similar. They like to join groups. They're available at the same time. It's not okay. It starts with a group and then says, come join. Bishop alluded to this. That's his language almost exactly. Come to the thing. Okay? Prevents a lot of integration. Not a lot of evangelization happening here. Okay? And I want you to just think about that image, because when we transition into our next chapter, we need to get a little bit more practical. Okay? We're going to expand our vocabulary a little bit, and we're going to talk about a different image and the way that youth ministry needs to reside in the church reality that is. Okay? We're going to take a break.